As always, I'm your host Daniel with my father and co-host Jerry. Say hi, Dad.
Hello.
This time we're gonna review White Tiger, a movie that we saw actually a bit ago. Kind of forgot, not forgot we necessarily saw, but forgot we didn't do one of these things on it. Um, I think this. I know it was on Netflix in January, but I think this technically came out last year, and this might be my favorite movie that came out all of last year. Uh, I kind of jokingly called it Indian Parasite, but it really kind of is. Uh, I don't know. What were your main thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best movies of the year.
Hmm.
It got nominated for Best Screenplay
Yeah,
at the Academy Award. I think it should have been nominated for one of the best movies,
yeah,
uh, and it certainly ranks up there. It's more in your face than the Chicago Seven,
mhm,
but it has as good a political punch
yeah.
as the Chicago Seven.
Well, I mean, it's somewhat more in your face because the characters kind of telling the story, and
Yeah.
unlike Chicago 7, the characters kind of rather than fighting against, well, he's fighting against the system, but he's fighting against the system to become a part of it, albeit a better part of it.
Yeah.
In some ways, towards the end. But yeah, I mean, it really because it talked a lot about in like India and like democracy and wealth distribution and how they don't really work in India.
Yeah. Well, it goes into, uh, I mean, the it goes into the class idea, and I think the guy did a good job of telling you why there aren't more people like the main character in his thing who kills off his boss, takes the money, and makes it big.
Yeah,
I mean, he goes into the fact that they're in the chicken coop and they just can't break out.
yeah. It talked a lot about the caste system, especially in India, caste system.
Yeah.
And it's admittingly something I don't know too much about, but it talked like about how that's one of the things that they kind of use to weigh them down. It talked somewhat about the difference between servants and employees, and how that's technically in there. There's a pretty big difference there. It um, it talked a lot about how the bosses don't really care about either usually, and that was kind of the key difference between. That was really when you break it down. That was really the only difference between him and his employer at the end is that he actually somewhat cared about his employees. At least I should say he realized the buck stopped with him. Uh, and that he didn't. And they weren't servants; they were his employees.
Yes.
So he had there was a degree of respect there that wasn't there when they were servants. But like it and it as well as I think it was kind of interesting that and I think and I wonder if the book goes more into detail about it. Because I guess we've already spoiled it, but at one point he finally decides towards the end to kill the guy
Yeah.
and steal the money. But it very much implies that that's what these people are doing in general.
Yeah.
It implies that well, first off, it essentially says if he doesn't kill them, he's gonna die. He will if he doesn't get. They're looking for a replacement. That's a death sentence to him, and they kind of talk about that. And it talks about even like throughout the movie, he first he starts off trying to do the right thing and help them, and every time he does that, um, regardless of what he does, they always come back to selling him out. Um, he's a good employee for them. They are going to throw him away and throw him into jail for something they did. Uh,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen. It goes away. Even though he was up and willing to sacrifice himself for that, in hopes that like, hey, his family and stuff will get fed, they still treat him like dirt. Um, they in that which kind of causes them to go a bit darker and start, well, not necessarily like start more kind of ripping off his master and stuff.
Mhm.
But I think like at the end it shows he's like he talks about how like the one woman who was willing to go to jail for it, and it upset her so much, and she left him all this money like he's never seen before. But that was barely enough to get. Uh,
Yeah.
it was maybe what $100 or something, or an
Yeah.
equivalent to. I don't know how rupees translate. Maybe I think he says it wasn't the equivalent of a bottle of Crown Royale or something. Not Crown Royale. Some
Yeah.
moderately expensive alcohol.
Yeah.
Something that might be $100, $200 a bottle.
Well, one of the interesting things, and I think this sort of sums up the book a little bit.
Yeah.
The female character,
Yeah.
I can't pronounce her first name. First,
Oh, I don't know who she is, but oh god, what's her name? She's
Paluca.
she's like one of the Jonas Brothers' wives.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think she's the only. And she in the movie actually comes from America,
yeah,
and so does the well the her husband comes from India, but went to school in America, and that's where he met her.
yeah,
And he has all these big business things while on it, but he doesn't really go after them because he kind of just wants to maintain the status quo.
yeah,
But none of them really, none of them like it shows a lot that none of them are seizing any opportunities
yeah,
or looking to expand. They're just all they do is kind of use their power to control people.
yeah,
And it even kind of goes down to that his own grandmother does the same thing.
yeah,
That she's trying to marry him off. She's not trying to do that. She's mad that he's not sending them money, even though he's not really getting anything back from them on it. He and I'm assuming the book would go into this more detail, but
yeah,
because I'm assuming the grandmother didn't distribute the money amongst the family.
yeah,
But I know this is based on a book, which I don't think either of us has read. But
yeah.
if it's anything like the movie, I'm sure it's incredible.
The book is, and the book had the woman,
Hmm.
the main female character, is somewhat the producer of the movie,
Hmm.
or was played a part in it. But she said the book had, and I like her quote again. The book had a profound effect on me. It made me uncomfortable and made me think about the part of the world that we
Hmm.
sort of are desensitize ourselves to.
Yeah. Well, like again, I think like one of the key aspects of it is that well, first off, the people that he's working for are essentially willing to kill people
Yeah.
throughout the entire movie.
Hmm.
He is
So
not.
was his grandmother.
Yeah. So is his grandmother. He is not until the very end of it, in which his life is on the line,
Yeah.
and he still expresses a feeling of guilt on it.
Yeah.
But he also kind of protects some people, and it's shown at the end of the movie that he, for better or worse, like yes they are his employees, and yes he's making money off of them,
Yeah.
but he's also defending them,
Yeah.
and he's trying to make amends for some things.
Yeah.
Like it kind of shows the same situation as one of them hit one of the kids at night, and he's obviously bribed other police. He obviously he never had any intention of playing fair
Yeah.
in the market when he goes and he starts his own business, and he immediately hires the cops to screw around with his competition.
Yeah.
um Again, no different than a actual business.
Yeah. Well,
um
there's no business, no different than what
yeah.
everybody else did.
And I think that was one of the key things, is that the difference between him and a big business is that he's a small business
Yeah.
essentially. Um, they show just rampant corruption in the government. What was that quote at the beginning? He's talking about the difference between the Chinese and India, in which they had democracy but no running water or electricity, but China didn't have democracy and got running water and electricity first.
Yeah.
Which I
And
kind of
if
found,
you
which I
could
felt,
have democracy, you should try to get electricity and
yeah.
first.
And I think like clearly, uh, I think it's very in the book. It clearly in the movie it clearly shows that India's democracy is a scam.
Yeah.
Uh, and the book did not like Slumdog Millionaire. Clearly,
Yeah.
I think it probably was written or came out around the same time when I with the time dates, but on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was just kind of an interesting take on it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of those where it's about the guy making it out because he is smart, he is skilled and stuff, uh, but he he has also his advantage, but doesn't make it out because of his abilities. He makes it out because he plays the because he essentially levels the playing field.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of the Horatio Alger story
Yeah.
where the guy is hardworking
Hmm.
but not honest or saying
Mhm.
he's just as crooked as everybody else.
Yeah, but but like, I mean, the key thing is, he's no more crooked as the people
Yeah.
he's working with.
No.
He's no more vicious. He's actually probably
Yeah. Less
less.
crooked, less vicious,
Yeah,
more
he,
willing to help people,
yeah,
and tries to do the right thing.
yeah. Like I said, yes, he kills the guy,
Yeah.
but I mean, first
Kills a guy and steals his money.
he
Yes.
kills the guy and steals his money, which, like, he points out that they're stealing the money from
Yeah.
him in general, which he is correct because it's bribes, so they don't have to pay any taxes to somebody. But he also points out and he points out that if he didn't do it, he it was a death sentence to him. He essentially was it because they were getting a new driver, which would just throw him out on the street after he spent years trying to help this guy get him over.
Yeah.
He tried to help him when his wife left him. He tried to help him in all sort. Obviously, when they hit the person in the car,
Yeah.
which was they were drunk and wanted to drive, he was willing to go to jail, and
Yeah.
they were just going to throw him out on the street.
Yeah.
And it shows at the end the hits, and they obviously just ignore the family of the person they hit. And it shows at the end, like he goes to the family, he gives them what would be a significant amount of money, uh, uh, and not to him but to them, and he says he's going to take care of their other son,
Yeah.
and offer and will have a job and everything. So I mean, so like obviously he paid off the cops and stuff, but all that would have happened was the guy would have went to jail for reckless driving or something.
Yeah.
So he's a lot. It's a lot less. It's weird because with him, like his stuff is more direct and stuff, but it feels a lot less corrupt and lot less slimy in the end.
Yeah.
Um, and he's obviously, and the whole thing is he's just trying to get some in the movie he's writing to. I think like the Prime Minister of China, trying to get him to invest in his company
Yeah.
as he's doing that. And it's a very interesting take. Like it also remember if you remember Hell or High Water,
Yeah.
the movie from about 5 or 6 years ago now, that it was very similar to that.
Mhm.
Just sort of a movie about the people that are robbing the people that put them in that position
Yeah.
in the end. But yeah, I can get why people would think though it's a bit of an uncomfortable movie.
Yeah. Well, there's no question it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's the and but it did get good critical reviews. It got 91 on Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes.
No, and I think like definitely I've seen most of the movies that they have for Best Picture
Yeah.
this year. I think I haven't seen two of them, but I'd still like. I mean, I really liked Trial of Chicago 7. We talked about Judas and the Black Messiah and how we thought it was almost a great movie.
Yeah.
No Man Land. I know you said you kind of liked it, but you kind of hated it now after reading the book.
Yeah. The
Uh,
book's much better.
we never finished the movie. It was just kind of slow, and we just had something else to do, and no one really got into it.
The,
But
the, the movie doesn't have any real story.
yeah, it's
They don't really
minimalist to
tell
a
a story. They
fault.
just tell about this woman who is not in good shape.
Yeah, but like she doesn't have any goals or anything yet. Like, mhm,
And the book is much more, even though it's a piece of
mhm,
nonfiction,
mhm,
and it's a piece of, I mean, she's a newspaper writer, and she's actually writing sort of an article for a newspaper. Um, Nomadland book has more of a story than I thought. The movie didn't really tell you what it was about,
yeah,
and therefore you were just sort of wandering around seeing, yeah, you see the Southwest, and the pictures of the Southwest were mostly bleak and
yeah,
lifeless, which is what Southwest is, but
mhm,
uh, it was. I mean, the movie was lifeless. It
mhm,
didn't. There wasn't a real story.
yeah,
It
um,
was sort of the woman moving from one person to another, who had these tales which were had some good and some bad in.
yeah, uh huh. This one also I do want to comment because it does something that I really hate in modern movies, in which it opens up like midway through the movie.
Yeah.
Uh, but for this one, because of the way the guy's telling the story, and two, by what they show, it's pretty like it actually adds tension, and you realize, and it like because other than and it shows that things escalate quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the movie is a lot about the escalation of this character.
Hmm.
And well, I don't want to say like him breaking bad necessarily, but somewhat.
Hmm.
Uh, and I mean, I think it's more throughout the story is that he's more just he stops playing by like. I mean, a lot of it is about very much breaking the caste system, getting out of that mindset, and getting out the mindset of a servant, something I've always hated Downton Abbey for.
Yeah.
Uh, and and how first off how hard it is to escape that,
Yeah.
and then even when you escape that, everything a lot of things are still stacked against you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the key things to the movie is that even once he escapes it at the end, and starts kind of, I guess I don't want, and starts kind of getting back at the people that are just kind of exploiting him.
Hmm.
He's still, uh, he's, I mean, his it's still like it's still life or death for him to have this job.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things. The key things is in this movie is that like how it's just life and death for a lot of people to have their jobs
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well, the one thing I think one of the critics that I read said that the guy used didn't uh, didn't produce it in a movie or in a picture thing. He told too much of the story that's just a narrative that he's telling.
Hmm.
But I actually thought that was good because he goes through this big change.
Hmm.
And if you just had it in thing, I mean, I think it would have been too much of a break from one guy to the other. The other.
Yeah, well, I don't like. I think like, what is this? The other movie I know this director did was 99 Homes.
Yeah,
And I think like uh, it also like in this movie you have to like explain to a lot of people what the caste system is, what
yeah.
this is, what's that, because
Hmm.
I mean it's I don't know what is the language they speak in India. Uh,
Yeah,
well, I know they talked about like, they talked about like, I mean, they talked about a lot of the stuff in, like, they talked about a lot of the stuff Slumdog Millionaire did,
yeah,
but without like the mysticism and magicalness of it,
yeah.
just the viciousness.
Hmm.
Um, and they obviously slip between speaking several languages and
Yeah,
the different religions and how like, I mean, early on he talks about how um, he, in order to get the top driver position, had to tell them that the one driver is Muslim, but he
yeah,
thinks the guy, which he gets fired for,
yeah,
and he doesn't like at that point he doesn't realize that it's gonna cost this guy his life essentially.
yeah,
And like he talks about that. He said, and throughout like the whole story, he says that's the thing he feels worst about
yeah,
because it wasn't it was going against somebody who was working hard and playing fair.
yeah,
Um, but and he even talks about how like crazy that is and how that's going on over there and how he of course doesn't do that at his workplace. Uh,
yeah. It had a lot of the
mhm,
black humor
mhm.
of a parasite.
Yeah, like I said, it felt like a degree of had very like a degree of parasite thing. Like it didn't quite having like people coming out from the basement to attack the guys, but
Yeah,
uh, it like I mean the person who like the character who's writing it clearly sees a degree in the movie and clearly sees the black humor in it too.
yes,
Uh, because he's and I think that was a really good staging thing for the story.
yes.
Um, ah, sorry. Uh, the kitty's kind of attacking my hand. But that's.
It's
Mhm,
I mean, it's a I think it's one of the better screenplays of the year. Certainly,
mhm,
it certainly deserves getting nominated for best screenplay, and I think also it probably
mhm.
deserved the nomination for best movie.
Yeah, I don't think it didn't get that, but I mean,
Yeah,
like I said, I think this was probably the best movie I saw all year.
yeah,
And um, it had all the. I mean, it worked as a movie, but it was also like a kind of a great study and criticism of like Indian politics and what's going on there and all that. Um,
yeah, and it took a pretty good shot at the Indian politics.
yeah, and the government and uh, I mean, it essentially said it's not really a democracy; it's more of a kingdom with like fiefdoms and feudal lords in it, with the that which which like I said, in a lot. I mean, the movies. I think we're making it. I mean, I think it's only about a 2 hour and 20 minute movie, so it's a bit long for a
Hmm.
movie, but it doesn't feel it. First off, and I wonder how much more the book would go into detail on this stuff.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, I think the book would be worth reading, and the he does have a the five screenplays this year. Uh, I did not think much of, as we said, Nomadland, but certainly the other screenplays like One Night in Miami and Borat are both very good also.
well, I don't know if Borat was really had a screenplay for
Yeah,
the most part, or was just Sacha Baron Cohen making stuff up, and
yeah,
whoever plays his daughter.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
Yeah. One Night in Miami is a really good screenplay,
yeah,
and the but this is a really good screenplay,
yeah.
and the
No, I mean this one's so good that I'm kind of sad we spoiled some of it.
yeah.
But like, yeah, my definite thing is definitely watch this one. Um, I'm assuming you're of the same opinion.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, well, unless you have anything else,
No, I do not.
then I think that about wraps it up. Again, thank you for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.